I have actually been doing this whole new moon in Libra offline, and I got to do sign by sign, and only now I'm discovering that I was offline. And so, I will begin again. My gosh, I need to drink. I need water. I'll have some chamomile, which is funny because Venus right now is exactly opposing Neptune, and mm, mm, just chamomile. Look at this new cuppa. Instead of drinking beer like people drink with these glasses, I'm drinking chamomile tea, which I love. Mm. This is interesting. A cup of glass, I think it is Mercury, that I like it because it's beautiful. Drinking chamomile tea, so it's herbal, Venus in Virgo. And yeah, there's just something there. Anyhow, I just like it. No, I can't astrologize this kappa. So, my voice was a bit lost, and I'm having Venus right opposition in Neptune, which is on my ascendant. So, my voice is a bit. And I'm drinking tea to remedy that. So, new moon in Libra. We're gonna have this new moon. This is a GMT time, so you're gonna have to adjust it to your time. Just look for the moon conjuncting the sun in Libra, and they're going to be opposing Jupiter retrograde in Aries. So if you just look at the moon and the sun in Libra opposing Jupiter, then you're like, oh, big relationships, big new relationships. But Jupiter is retrograding, so it's reflecting on something. And the moon perhaps may draw in the reflection upon those big new relationship beginnings. And the ruler of this new moon, that is Venus, is conjuncting Mercury, that is retrograde. And I'm gonna put myself on top. And opposing, back down, so you can see Venus opposing Neptune. That's a very weird use for for this. This is a very weird use for this cup and for this circle, which I'm gonna astrologize later. So the ruler of the new moon is opposing the outer planet of spiritual surrender. And spiritual surrender is a beautiful term, a beautified term to be stoic about a sense of loss, a sense of disappointment. It can be an actual, loss, or it can be a sense of disappointment from something. For me, I experienced my voice was kind of like I needed a cup of tea. So this is not the time to begin something new of the things that are Venusian, that are signified by Libra. So new business venture, new beautifying of something, even new creative project can experience a sense of you will have to just radically accept what is. So let's say if I try to paint right now, I probably would not paint the biggest painting of the nation. But it can still express my feelings. It can still, there might be a sense of disappointment or loss, but it can still be a spiritual teaching about love of loving also that which is not perfect, the loving also being compassionate towards ourselves. Not everything has to be perfect, okay? Virgo, Venus in Virgo, practical, perfectionist, to the detail, information, and Neptune, not everything has to be that accurate, not everything has to be perfect, not everything, okay? It's bearing the loss of that and seeing the beauty in that which isn't that perfect image of um, that Venus will try to achieve in Virgo for practical reasons. Okay, so maybe she tries to express her love practically, and it didn't come out the best way for her, but it doesn't mean that she will not be loved in return. Okay. The worst case scenario would mean that she tries to express her love, but it is not being seen or returned because, Neptune is kind of the loss. But another good aspect can be that she is exposing her lack of perfectionism in that part that she forgot to clean, or that part that she forgot to do. Maybe she's not doing well because Venus in Virgo is also not doing well, and she's still loved. And so that sense of loss, or maybe she tried to paint, or she tried to do something, or she tried to clean the house for her partner, and it came out even more dirty than it was, and then her partner just loves her because they're compassionate, because she has a good intention. So not everything is lost. Remember that not everything is lost with this new moon. Um, for example, I don't know to astrologize this, but on the day I found out that my friend had um, like I had a notice for something that I needed to fix, that I actually did fix that day. But before I fixed that, it was very stressful because it was about debt that I didn't owe. I was not supposed to pay that, but because of the bureaucracy. So I got like the letter on the same day that my friend got the notice that the judges removed the prohibition on publicity from her case, and it was a years long case. It was a Me Too case before even the Me Too, but then they removed the prohibition on publicity, and that was a great liberation for them. So for me, it was like the first thing I thought was like, everything's not lost. The song "Everything's Not Lost." Not everything is lost. So you can have a join of something new or something positive again with Jupiter changing the mindset, bringing to a new beginning. There's a new beginning on the mindset level that is positive, but then there can be also a loss adjoined to it, a spiritual, or accepting this loss. Okay, because Jupiter is supportive. Accepting this loss that Neptune um, brings a new beginning in the way that we relate to things in our lives. Okay, so um, that's for just Moon in Libra, because Moon in Libra, okay, top positions Jupiter, retrograde, so change of mindset, a blessed change of mindset, reflecting upon something. Maybe Jupiter has reflected upon something, and we try this with a new beginning. Um, some new beginning that's related to how we see things. Maybe having a point of view that is more harmonized and balanced than the point of view that Jupiter would have in Aries. So that's not a bad thing. But the ruler is conjuncting retrograde Jupiter, which is okay. It's just reflecting on the details. It's just more and more and more extra reflection on the details. Um, but there is a sense of loss. This new point of view asks us to accept something that we just have to, because Neptune reflects back, and it was too idealistic about something to do with that, Venus. Now, if you are in a relationship and you have this, new moon and the Venus oppositioning, and you've been, married for, I don't know, the past 14 years, and it's all in all been a happy marriage, I don't see anything, you might over idealize each other for a while, and then there will be a slight disappointment, and then you just go back to loving each other as you are, which can actually strengthen the relationship, because you might think, oh, this is perfect, a perfect partner, but then you find that what's not perfect about them, or that they lied about this, white lie, but you love them even more, because now you see the authentic person, and you see the flaws, and you love a human being. Okay. But if this is a new relationship, this can be potentially more difficult, because that planet which rules relationship or Venusian figures is opposing that planet which denotes unclarity, ideation, and then devaluation. Okay, so ideation and devaluation is also Neptune. It tends to blur reality. So and because it is retrograde, it can even be funny, because you may think that it can come about in a strange way, because you can think that, oh, this person, I actually see the flaws in them and I'm in love with this person, but you're actually idealizing, because you don't see, you see the flaws in them, or maybe you think you can get along with the flaws in them, but you actually can't. Or you're being so this can actually manifest as, not as, it can manifest as white lies, but it can also manifest as believing that you've said the truth about yourself, and you've heard the truth about the other, and you can handle this truth, but you actually can't. Okay. The ruler of this new moon is also trining Pluto, and this is interesting, because just a trine with Pluto is a positive thing, it's a theme of empowerment. So there's a new empowered beginning, but the opposition to Neptune can tell us that what happened when we have, one sense and then the other sense is blurred. So we go to that one sense and we try to over rely on the senses that we have. And so you might idealize somebody Venusian, somebody new, or a Venusian figure might idealize somebody, and then she can turn to themes of power, of where she's strong at, which is power in a hierarchy, in order to deal with this. This is what's easy for her, to go to the trine. To go to the trine is what's easy for us. So she can go to the themes of power in order to deal with the places where reality is a bit blurred, or to deal with the disappointment. And that can, maybe relying on their own status, on their own power. But Pluto, again, it will turn direct this month. So Pluto retrograde is about where we have been given our power. So this is not, this is not the road to go for around that Venus figure or for that Venus figure. It can also mean that Venus is having an ideation and therefore a loss, and then there is a Pluto figure that now reverts to these tactics. But these tactics are familiar for Venus even when she is depleted. It's a trine, okay? She's familiar, she's in harmony with seeing that Pluto theme. So it's not possible to use this transit to overpower her. Not very fruitful. If this is the road that anybody asks to go, this is not a fruitful road. Oh, women are weak right now, let's try to oppress them. That had worked before, and might not work this time. Again, where Rahu is, and Taurus, the other sign that is ruled by Venus, and next to Uranus. So revolution, yeah. And of course, if I talk, I cannot forget, I know this is a new moon, but I cannot forget talking about what happened in Iran. Women in Iran, and this is so Uranus-Saturn square, almost applying to square, women in Iran. Okay, there was a case of a woman that did not wear hijab, and she was beat to death in Iran. And it became public. Even though this is the law in Iran, it's not something unusual, okay? But that did not go. So those Plutonian themes, now that I think about it, with Venus opposition in Pluto, the regime in Iran, those Plutonian teams reverted to oppress women, to beat them to death. This is what they used to do. That was the normal. Okay, they reverted to teams of pressure. She's not wearing a hijab, she should be beaten to death. That was the logic, okay? But this did not work this time. This time, what happened? Not only women removed the hijab and shaved their hair. Not only women, also men shaved their hair to support women rights in Iran. Men and women. And you need to remember, if you know a bit about Iran, the people in Iran is Aries. I'm sorry, I'm a bit teary-eyed because it is a country that is close to our country, but whatever people may think about our countries, the peoples are different and the regimes are different, and I'm very excited for Iranian people. So the people in Iran are represented in the chart of a country by the 4th house, and this is Aries. Jupiter is retrograde, so the sense of belief, okay, maybe the belief that we are now being able to take up power. You know, with Mars there, it's trine in Saturn, retrograde, Mars in Gemini, and Mars in Gemini is about a visible fight, okay, a fight that is visible. So if in the past those women would be beaten to death and nobody would catch that on camera, this one was caught on camera. This one, they managed to get it to the media. And this is what you need to know. It's not just, oh, something happened to a woman in Iran. This was what used to happen daily. But this happened to be caught on camera. And that would not happen before the Mars in Gemini. Okay, so this one got to be caught on camera. And with Chiron going through the sign of the people, so basically healing the belief of the people that they have the power, that they can show, they can see the people and not just the regime. Not only when they manage to run away to Europe or to other countries, but also when they are in their own country. Thanks to social media, again, Gemini. But Rahu is again where Venus is. Rahu is in Taurus, okay, conjuncting Uranus. Not loosely conjuncting, it's 13 degrees and 18 degrees, it's not a tight conjunction. But again, Rahu is in the sign of Taurus, is in the sign of Venus. It's where it's heading, what is to be, in favor of Venus, Venusian figures. Uranus revolution. The issue was hair coverage, but the act of revolution was both removing the hijab and shaving the hair. Hair is represented by Saturn. So shaving the hair is for people who are coming from the West, shaving the hair is a very, 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 deep act. In the tradition, for example, in the religious tradition, for example, of the Jewish, they grow both, the hair, the men grow their beard and the women grow the hair. Also in Indian traditions, I know that like Indian Native Americans, the hair has big importance, but this is also honor. And shaving the hair is usually an act that a colonizer does, or that you do to a slave, is shaving the hair, so that you deprive them, because hair is also ancestry. So you deprive them of their ancestry, you humiliate the person, you isolate the person by shaving the hair. And the act of shaving one's own hair as an act of revolution is basically to be cut off that ancestry. Okay, it's a revolting against this ancestry. It's a very, very, very powerful act. I'm not Iranian, so I don't feel it full force, but this is a very strong act. It's not just, an act of Westerners, we have gotten used to a lot of, the slut walk as an act of reclamation. Think about this 10 times folds. This is basically, this hair, this ancestry, this traditions, we're not a part of it. We're not a part of it. That tradition that said that a woman should be beaten to death if she's raped, or if she shaves her hair, or if she doesn't wear hijab, This is not our ancestry. And this is powerful. Okay, so the revolution against using the hair. And again, Venus is also our appearance, attractiveness, and the hair is ruled by Saturn, and it's also the ancestry. It's also our roots. So basically, it's kind of like a new beginning regarding to our roots. Okay, and shaving the hair has a lot of connotation. For some people, some priests would shave their hair because it would get them to connect with divinity. And on the other hand, Jewish people wear hats and wear kippas to kind of protect the crown chakra from infiltration. I don't know the whole, like, if you are Jewish and I'm not saying something correctly, feel free to correct me in the comments. So again, big religions, big reflect over the religion. And I don't think I could not, speak about it on a video. And here again, Rahu is where Venus is. What's exciting, it's not only women that did that, also men shaved their hair. It was solidarity with the women, and completely correcting everything wrong about the ancestry and about the ancestors, about the way that people translated religion, because this is not religion. Religion is one thing, how we perceive and how we translate it into traditions is cultural and is history bound. So this is no way, in any way, an act against Islam or against Judaism or against any religion, because this is not the religion, it is the traditions, which is culturally bound, and it does change drastically and dramatically over the course of the years to actually stay true to their religion. So this is not an act against religion in any way, shape, or form. Notice Jupiter is in Aries. It's a religious act. Okay? It's a religious act for women to correct the traditions of Islam in favor of women in Iran. Okay? Using the cutting of the hair. Cutting away of, when do we cut our hair? We cut our hair we cut something to make it go fresh, to make it grow fresh, so that the hair now will grow correctly. Okay, I could not ignore this event, and so with Venus here, opposition Neptune retrograde. Of course, there would need to be adjustment. There can be a sense of surrender or dissolution or letting go. In the case of Iran, they will eventually have to let go of the image of a woman wearing a hijab, and because there's nothing wrong about the hijab as a beautiful thing. There, if you go to Dubai, you see many well-decorated hijabs, but when it is a sign of oppression, and when someone is forced to do so, and it's not or being beat to death because you don't wear hijab, this is things that, if you know any religion, not just Islam, also Judaism, if you actually go to the scriptures, you will see that the Lord would be very angry at people. Like, if the person does not wear hijab, or they have a process to go with their own spiritual or religious growth, it's their own thing. Okay? Or maybe they're not meant to wear. Maybe they're meant to respect, God in a different way. Maybe they're meant to be atheist for a while, maybe, or to be atheist. But if a person beats that person because of something visible, and they did not look to themselves first, and they did not look to what they don't do, and they did not look to how they treat women, which are, God's creation, this is, oh my God, If we take a look at the scriptures, we see that whenever there was a case where people respected the tradition but not the religion, where they respected or when somebody did commit a murder over something that is of an appearance, whatever, if it is Judaism, if it is Islam, I don't know so much. I think it was also Christian, but Christianity was different in that way. But still, like always the prophets, the next book would be that the Lord was punishing these people, that the Lord was angry of these people, that the Lord was punishing the person who would beat the person who did that, or brought karma to the person who did that, more so than if they didn't say a thing, because the person who did not wear hijab maybe going through something in their life. Maybe they see religion in a different way. Maybe it is time for a change of tradition so that the Lord will be respected in different ways than before. This happens along history a lot of times. But the person who beats up the person to death because they don't wear hijab, because it is tradition, is actually very much. I'm not a religious guru. I don't, I'm not imam or anything. But when I know, from what I know of the scriptures, usually we have later a scripture where the God is very, very angry, and he would let the person who did not do that tradition, or did not, I don't know, keep Shabbat, or didn't, or light the candle in Shabbat, or who did not wear hijab, he would be a lot more angry at the person who was violent towards this person than the person who did not do the mitzvah or did not wear hijab or whatnot. And this is also something to keep in mind, because there was reverting to power, and they may try, of course, to revert to power, but this is not going to work. They're going to be disillusioned with thinking that they still, and they will need to change something. There's a sense of loss about the image of a woman. There's an ideal woman. If you were born in a Muslim country, your ideal woman would be wearing hijab, because you would not see. Okay, you would see, how do you see a woman? Wearing hijab. Maybe your mother you would see without hair, but even that I don't know. And you would not see her hair, and you would not see, and this is what the ideal image of a woman would be. So there is a loss of that ideal image, and a loss of that ideal image as being true to a certain religious criteria. But then that new woman, that new image, that imperfect image in the eyes of the tradition is actually loved and appreciated and honored. So, so this is another form of a place where something is lost and people try to revert to power to bring it back, but no, it's not coming back. You have to accept the new. The old is not coming back, and it is in favor of the Venus. It's in favor of things represented by Venus. Also, digital coins. Okay, and I've talked about it in previous videos. Digital coins, we might not like them, but they're probably here to stay. They go up and down, they're volatile, they're this, they're that. Maybe they're stable, maybe not, but they're probably here to stay. And we are growing more and more digital in our way of using even public transportation. You pay with your cell phone. Okay, in Amsterdam, you can hardly get a drink. You cannot buy a drink with cash in Starbucks in Amsterdam and many other shops. So that was an important side note. Back to Moon in Libra. So I think I've said the main things I said. Now I'm going to go sign by sign. Hope I managed to go sign by sign, because I have 19 degrees. Maybe I will... Wait. I'm going to be very careful. Okay. Yeah. So, sign by sign. Begin with Aries. Aries, new moon for you is happening in the 7th house, but the ruler is in the 6th. So, something to do with relationships, one-on-one relationships or one-on-one partnerships, and being an employer or being employed, or your daily routines at work, something to do with work. So there can be a new beginning. Maybe it's a beginning that is even a bit forced or coerced. Again, with the Venus trining Pluto, it can be coerced, forced. You have to begin something new. But there can be an over-idealizing. Maybe maybe you have a team and you're working with a woman and she over-idealizes, or you are the woman and you over-idealize. But somebody at work is over-idealizing a new beginning. And there would be a letdown. So you could actually, or you are over-idealizing a woman at work. And that doesn't have to denote an affair, but it can be that there is something that's not fully truthful. Again, Mercury retrograde also opposition in Neptune, and that, because Mercury is retrograde, is usually reflective, then that can be unintended. Like somebody is saying something that's not completely the truth. Maybe they think it's a white line, it's not actually a white line. That big detail is actually a make or break eventually. Or maybe they're actually telling the truth, but you didn't get what they're talking about. Maybe somebody, maybe there's a new employer coming in, and you're going to be working one-on-one, or a new boss coming into your workplace, and you're going to be working one-on-one. And let's say you went through, a crisis, and you say, "Oh, I'm recovering from a crisis," and you say, "Oh, how does it express itself?" Well, sometimes it's difficult for me to get up during the day, or maybe I need more days off. And they're like, "Okay, we'll go through this together." And then your crisis means a lot more than that. And they didn't know, or you didn't know, or there's a new employee and you didn't know, and there's just these things that are on the relationship level, on the business partnership level, or the relationship level, or perhaps your partner has a new job. If your spouse is a Venus figure, or neighbor living in front of you, if you're in good relations, has a new job, and they're like over idealizing, but somebody's not telling the truth. Maybe they're not telling the truth because they want this job so much, but there's a bit of disillusionment later. And with this disillusionment, there can be a reverting to power tactics again. It's not, it doesn't have to be something very significant, but it can also denote, of course, on edges, it can denote significant things of, actually, reverting to power, to trying to either temper Venus, or Venus reverting to power, or the relations of power she had with that, Pluto figure, to deal with the loss, or to deal with the incongruency, in the speech or whatnot. Doesn't have to be. It just means that whatever begins this time, be stoic about it. You win some, you lose some. If you can do something creative together, if you work in publicity service, then whatever project or whatever advertisement you make it so that it's funny, that it's humorous, that it's enjoyable, that you mess with the details in a way that is funny. But you don't have to be true, or you don't have to have truth in publicity. You don't have to be true to what you say. Any activity that is where you don't have to be relying on communication is beautiful. And of course, that is not good news for any intimate relations, because intimacy requires good communication. And so this is not the best time to begin, new intimate relations. No, 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 no. Even if it's your seventh house, wait for Venus to be in the seventh house and get out of the orb of Pluto. Then, maybe things could get better for you there. Or if it's perfected year, we'll wait for Mars to go to Libra. So that's for Aries. The more you can be creative with your partner, painting together, and it might not come perfect, or doing something that has aesthetics together, and it might not come perfect, but it's okay, the better. Taurus. This thing is happening, the new moon is in your 6th house, and Venus is and Mercury are in your 4th. So this ties these houses together. It means that work, and not 4th, sorry, 5th, that work and pleasure are tied together, but in a way that is not congruent with, good communication. So you can actually, try to do something for work that you also enjoy, but you have to kind of not tell the entire story about this. And that, again, if it is a creative project where you don't rely on good communication, then that can be how it manifests. Okay, maybe you are enjoying the artistic value or the Venusian artistic value of the details and the way those details are arranged in the space, and you enjoy that, and it doesn't have to be, you know, adhering to anything. And your morale is kind of adjusted to that. It's like not everything has to be right, not everything has to be correct. I also have to make a living, and you know, now I'm doing this creative project. It might not be so congruent with good communication or with telling the truth, but it's not necessarily a big thing. It can, and you might think that it's not a big thing, it becomes a bigger thing later. Um, uh, but it does tie the house of pleasure and gambling and even children to the house of work. If you have a child, okay, it can be that the child wants to take on a new responsibility. If all the children, maybe they want to start up, you know, to do a startup. If it's something that requires you to be the responsible for what they are not responsible of, do not consent. Like if they really want to take a dog and you like dogs and they're like, but you're like, but you're working. Here, your working environment does not allow. And you say, you know what, I'll take this day off. On this day, I will be able to help you with your new project or with adopting or taking the dog to the vet. But all other days, you need to take care of the dog. Don't think they're going to be super. They might even work as a dog walker or doggy sitter to show you that they can do this, and they will take care for your pet and take care for your dog. But it's like they're not going to do this on the long run. They're not going to do this on the long run, and you're going to have to take care of things. So this is a part where miscommunication can be a big issue. So if your children want, but if your children want a new hobby that is related to painting, to doing something, to decorating something, let them have it. It might not be as good as they planned, but let them have it. It's not, you know, too expensive for you. Let them have it. It's just another thing that might not, you know, so they might discover that, you know, they're not Picasso with this transit. But I would say if you are starting a new hobby or trying to make work of a new hobby and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to be fun and I'm going to put my creative talent into it and it's just going to be wonderful. Don't give up so quickly because this is not the time to start something new, but you may try to do it again. You may try to do it again. Either when Mercury is retrograde or in another better election or in a way that is completely transfigured and changed. But it doesn't mean that you cannot make money out of something that you enjoy doing. And it doesn't mean that work and pleasure cannot go together. It just means that this time you will have a disappointment of some sorts. Okay? There's big dreams, big issues, because Jupiter magnifies a new beginning. There's big, maybe idealizing of this new beginning. But this is not the one. It's not the one. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get creative. It's not mean, or you may schedule to write a song with someone, and you're taking it so seriously and being practical and so and you know what, that song never ends up being in their new album or something like that. But it doesn't mean that you won't be writing in the future. It doesn't mean that you need to give it up. It just means that here is a beginning of something that may be lost, that may not be carrying the fruits. But even those things need to be. Gemini. For you, it's happening in the 5th house with the ruler in the 4th. So 5th house is especially a new hobby, but this time it's not a hobby that you necessarily try to make into a work unless you have this predisposition in the natal chart. It may be, you might even try to bring children, or you might take on a new hobby, a new gamble. Gambling with the ruler opposing Neptune not advised. I know it's holidays for some people, and if you celebrate holidays and you have a lot of family dinners and there's a lot of alcohol and you do have addiction problems, it is okay to even, to even skip that. Say you're sick, call in sick or something. And this is a good use of that, call in sick, you know? But if it is in your house, and it could be with the ruler in your house, and you don't want everybody to know that you're dealing with this addiction, they're going to be alcohol or they're going to be food or they're going to be I don't know what, then have some support with your mindset or arrange for that, because that fifth house is going to have something new happening. There's an event happening that's going to culminate because this is a new moon, and it's going to be something big because Jupiter magnifies things, but Jupiter is also retrograde, so this new beginning is going to get you to think differently around your Aries house, which for you is the 11th. It's just social gatherings, but more colleagues. So think about, colleagues versus your children, or colleagues versus your hobbies. Um, and there can be something that's related, a social gathering that's related to your hobbies, or you may go to a new community, or you may start a new relations with a new community based on something that is a hobby for you. But for them, it can be professional. Okay, let's say with Libra, maybe it's something to do with either beauty or industry or court. Okay, maybe you decide you want to go to a conference of people who are lawyers, and you're not a lawyer. You're just interested in laws. You're just interested in laws, and you think, oh, this is a new beginning. I'm going to get to know new people. I'm going to get to know this. And then you may even, tell a white lie. Maybe say you're studying law or something like that, and they're going to be a little bit disappointed when they find out that you're just an enthusiast, and it's okay. But maybe you couldn't get into the conference if you were just an enthusiast. So you can be a little bit of a light that gets you into something, but this lie is discovered because it's opposition in Neptune. Neptune usually, if it's opposition in Neptune, if Mercury is opposition in Neptune, then they don't, if they conjunct, it can be that light that gets you into some place. But if they, or an exposure of a light that gets you into some place, but if they are opposing, it can be that you try to lie to do something, but that lie is exposed and you can be a bit embarrassed. But it doesn't have to be a big thing, doesn't have to be a big thing. Or this becomes something that is known at home, because this is your fifth and your fourth. Another thing with the fifth and the fourth, it means that you may start a new hobby, but it is something that will lead to disappointment of a Venusian figure in your home. And then it's up to you to decide, because maybe this is something that's important to you. But if you are the one who's been disillusioned from this new hobby or this new, not habit, but it's more like a hobby that you begin, or creative project that you begin, that perhaps is actually idealized, or somebody in your family idealizes, and it doesn't necessarily bear the fruits. Again, things like this are important lessons. It may be so significant that you start something creative that even if it doesn't bear the fruits, it's important enough to do. Okay, to create is important enough, to paint is important enough, even if it doesn't go out, if you don't end up being, I don't know, Leonardo da Vinci, it's still important to create. And so that was Gemini. But again, be careful with if it's gambling, if it's anything addictive that you experience, then this can cause issues at home. Okay, if it's gambling, or if it's lying about addiction that you have, and you lie about it to a Venusian figure in your life, this can cause disillusion. If it is something chronic, it can cause even the final breaking of the relationship. And all these planets, Saturn, Pluto, Mercury, Jupiter go direct, then yes, this can mean, and as Mars going retrograde, this can mean that, this like, okay, I've had it. But if it's not something like that, then it could just mean a bit of disillusionment. Um, Cancer. So Cancer, this is happening in your fourth house with the ruler in your third house. This may mean even a new sibling, and maybe a new sibling or growing in the household. If Virgo is happening to be, your natal fifth, who knows, maybe you have another child. Um, but something, a new beginning at home. It can be that you try to even beautify the home or beautify the environment, but it doesn't necessarily come out as planned, as long as you don't waste too much money on it, um, um, which you might with the ruler of your second being opposition in Jupiter in this new moon. Um, but then it's kind of a lesson of acceptance. Try to make it something creative. Try to do something that you beautify your home. Something that even if you lose or even if it doesn't come out as planned, it's not something too of too much significance to you. Although with Jupiter it will be of significance to you. I don't know. Um, but again, try to see it as something that is a lesson along the road. Even, there's a saying, I think Woody Allen said, even bad movies need to be made. So even if it doesn't come out as planned, there's still the joy of creating something new, the joy of a new beginning. That even if it doesn't fathom out as what you've expected, it's still important. Um, Somebody at your home or your sibling could be having a relationship where they are idealizing someone or someone idealizes them, and that it causes you might need to be there for them or support them through some kind of sense of loss, or they're having a creative project. It can be that one of your siblings is trying to decorate their home, and you know and it comes out a bit weird. um, for Leo. Leo, this is happening in your third and second house. So you are one of the most susceptible to try and start a new business, in which the omen is no, not this new moon, or try to change your relationship with your finances, or there can be a sibling that tries to create a new change in the way, like either in your daily routines or something in your daily routines to increase your value, or to increase your finances that you own. Maybe tries to set you up with something, um, like a loan or something like that. Don't go for it. Um, you might, this is a good time to reflect, but if you're the less active you are being about it, the better, because it is surrendering. In this cycle, until the moon is full, at least you will need to surrender something. You might experience even a bit of financial loss. Maybe you have to pay something, um, or you appreciate a certain art and you think, maybe I will invest in arts. And then, but then it's a daily thing. It's something you do daily. It's the third house, your sibling. Or maybe I invest in an artwork by my sibling, and you think that you're not going to do just favor for your sibling, but you're going to get rich from that. And you find out that no, it's actually a loss in fiscal term, but on a spiritual level, it's something that supported, my sibling along their career or their sense of value. Maybe one of your siblings' sense of value is dependent upon this investment that you make. Or this new routine, or something that changed to your new routine. Maybe somebody has an application that they have, again with Mercury, and innovation, and they say, try this application, it's going to do good to your daily schedule, and it's not doing good to your daily schedule, and you kind of don't know. Maybe you're a bit lying to them of the outcome of this, because you don't know how to tell them it's not really useful, because they've been working so hard on this. So So and that sibling of yours sees that it's something big there, you know, with the opposition to Jupiter. It's the big new beginning. It's the application that's going to change the world of, you know, solar. And you're like, not really changing my daily schedule. You don't know how to say that. Um, so that's for Leos. Again, be warned with if it is you that is trying to invest in something that would change your daily schedule and make you more money. If you're thinking to buy like one of those, you know, programs where you trade and you're like, oh, in just 10 minutes, in just 5 minutes a day, I'm going to make this much money. You know, don't put all your money in there. I'm just saying, don't don't quit your day job just yet. Not for this. Um, Maybe you do need to quit your day job, but don't do that with the money because you're gonna need the money for something else. Virgo, sorry for your startup. And if you are that sibling, it doesn't mean that your application is not, you know, good, but it would need serious readjustments and you might have to change a concept. But it doesn't mean that you need to give up being an entrepreneur. It just means that this thing did not carry fruits. Virgo. Okay. Oh, by the way, it can mean that something goes viral without being useful. So it's viral. It can actually be successful, but in a way that is crooked. So that can also happen. Virgo. So this new moon is happening in your second house with the ruler in your first house. The ruler being Venus. So it can be someone that you comes into your life and increases your sense of value. Your sense of value. It can be a new love that increases your sense of self-value, but you're going to have to learn how to rely on yourself for evaluating yourself, because either you will break up or you see that she was telling white lies to impress you, and then instead of that making you feel like, oh, I'm not worth it, she was telling me, I don't know, something like a white lie or something like not necessarily trying to be deceptive towards you. However, because it is your second house and it's a Venus figure, it can be like somebody tries to flirt with you online, Mercury, and tries to scam you out of your money, second house, the money that you own, by flirting with you and using maybe a sexual power, or a man that uses his sensual power and try to deceive you into donating money to them, and, you know, trying to flirt with you and get you to donate money to them. And they're not the real deal. They're like lying, you know, in the worst case, it could be like a scammer online that tries to get you, to rob you out of your wealth, to rob you out of your money. That's coming into you through, you know, that's reaching you to your first house. They're coming to your first house. The Venusian figure doesn't necessarily mean a woman. There are men that can be Venusian because they can be in their feminine, or they can be paying attention to their appearance, or they can use the image of a woman and it's not a woman. Okay, you can say that this is a man, it's not a woman. And it can be even somebody who's pretending to be young Mercury that's going to try to rob you of your money, to rob you of your value. And this is a big sum of money that they want, because again, the new moon is opposition in Jupiter, and Jupiter is magnifying things. And this is the second and the eighth, and Jupiter is in the eighth, so they want it for them. It's a new sum of money that you get that somebody wants to try to scam you off. That can be like the worst case scenario, that you need to be aware of these scammers, and you may be falling in love. But if they ask you for donation, if they say, I need this for, I don't know, my new venture, or my new this, or my new that, wait with the investment. Delay the investment as much as possible, because it can be that you just met someone awesome that has a new idea, and they want money, and you want to help them, and they are trying to fundraise from everyone. You see that they're genuinely trying to fundraise and don't want to rely on you for that, and then you offer them like the money for that, and they can be, you know, very grateful, and that can be successful, and that can tank, but it doesn't mean that they're a scammer. You could meet a person who's doing startup, but on the worst case scenario, you could meet a person that's trying to, you know, pretend that they're this, you know, young woman, and you need to be careful here, because if you have issues with being attracted to people that are underage, it can be that the person can try to lie to you that they are underage, but it can be that the person does not lie that they are underage, and then it's up to you. But then, of course, you're not one of my viewers, hopefully. So, you need to be cautious with these new beginnings, with Venusian characters coming to meet you, reaching you through maybe social media, maybe a phone call, and maybe asking for money, or maybe asking for investment, or you are that Venusian figure, and now you are asking for investment in your own, in your own assets, or asking for money for yourself, asking to own money. It's not a loan with the second house. It's something that you want to be invested in you. And you can revert to your connections with that Pluto figure in Capricorn, or you can revert to your own position and the hierarchy in order to allure people to invest in you. But this would not be the correct thing to do. You would need to start and not go to try the true thing, because Venus is also leaving this opposition, leaving this trine with Pluto. You won't have it for long, so you would need to start relying on something new for your value. But this is not the new moon where you find out where that something new is. Okay. If you are in any relation to Jewish ancestries, this is where Jewish celebrate Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah is where it's the new year, but before that people do tashlich, which is basically ridding themselves of everything that no longer serves them. It's a symbolic act, but it is also a time where they, just like before Passover, they arrange the house, they clean the house, and they throw out everything that is, no longer serving them, old toys of the children or whatnot. So even though Rosh Hashanah is like the new beginning and people buy gifts for Rosh Hashanah, it is still, if it's happening, it's the new moon, and you've just thrown away what's not good for you, wait until you bring the new, with this new moon, because this new moon is what you bring. The new that you bring is, there's going to be a sense of surrender around it. And if you are Virgo, then this is personally you. Okay, you bring something new just to hope to increase your value. And with the moon and the sun there, it may be an investment in real estate that you're trying to make to increase the value, to increase your wealth, but it's not going as you planned. And this is like a big promise, so you invest a big sum of money. Preferably you receive a big sum of money. Also, if you receive a big sum of money, don't use it right away, because you may have to return some of it. Okay. And it also can be that you try to beautify your appearance. I would not recommend any beauty procedures other than regular beauty procedures, because they might not come out as you planned. If you're trying to make like something technological to improve your appearance with this new moon, no, don't go for it. I know the moon, I know it is the new moon, but not only that the moon is growing and you don't want anything invasive, that's the usual, but it's just opposition in Neptune, so there's going to be a disillusion. Maybe there's a scammer, a person who's trying to pretend that they're a professional, they can treat your appearance, or that they are very professional, but because this is not a good timing for that, they could be very professional and very well-meaning, you could be very well-meaning, but something did not come out as you planned with this technological interference in your appearance. So if it's just, you're celebrating the New Year's Day, the Jewish New Year's Day, and your makeup, your eyeliner didn't come out right, you can stand it, hopefully. But if you've scheduled a beauty procedure, or to do a facelift, or to do injection, or to do, something on this day, like it might go off. You might, or you might need to correct it. So it may be that it goes off and you need to correct it. Doesn't mean it's not correctable, but something that you thought, oh, this is going to so deeply increase my self-value, or it goes correctly, but it does not increase your self-value. Or you thought, I don't know, maybe I will do, I don't know, a nose job, and your nose went, it's so beautiful, it's amazing, now everybody likes you, you get compliments, and it's like everybody idolize you, Neptune, for this nose, but you feel inside it's like, oh damn, my beliefs change. It's like, oh well, I'll just have to accept it as a lesson learned that it doesn't change my self-value. There are other things that change my self-value. It's the way I think, Jupiter, about myself, that change, or healing, dealing with a certain trauma, 8th house that I've had, that kind of make me feel beautiful about who I am. And I didn't need this nose job, but then, oh, you've already done that, but so you accept that it's not something terrible. But in the worst case, it might be that it didn't come out the way you planned it. It came out really, really bad. And then either you choose either to accept this, and then you learn acceptance in this way, or that you do correct this and you pick a better election to correct this. So this is Virgo. Libra. So Libra, this is happening in your first house, but the ruler is in your 12th. And what you need to know about the 12th house is the house of what you don't know that you don't know. So there's a new beginning about your life path, about your, your personal road, or something that is very personal to you is beginning. And it carries a significant other, because it is opposition in Jupiter in the 7th house. So the 7th house is in signification, but also Chiron is there. So something is also healing about your relationship to yourself and your relationship to your partner. That being said, the ruler of this new moon is in the 12th house, an opposition in Neptune. And Neptune is in your 6th house. So there's something that you don't know about this new beginning. And it's not as promising as it may seem. There's something about the communication that is missing. It's really hidden. Probably around the full moon, you might discover what it is. But there's a sense of disillusionment. It can also mean, with all of these significations, all the houses, it can also mean that you're exposed to the detail that gives you that letdown. And then the beginning is just to recover, sometimes this is even the best case, that you were already exposed in the new moon to that thing which is going wrong. But then for Libras, when you have Venus and Mercury in the 12th house, you probably need to wait to the full moon to be exposed to what is it? And you maybe are unaware of how you idealize something. You may be thinking that you're being stoic about something, but you're actually being optimistic. And that can be a more significant lunation for you in this sense, because you think you're seeing the facts, but you aren't. And this is a big thing. It's a big new beginning. And you think you're rational, because with Jupiter and the retrograde, you're reflecting. You and your partner and your significant other or one-on-one relationship, you're reflecting upon something. So you think that maybe you think, we now are more aware, and so we can have this new beginning being more informed, but actually not. And that deception is coming from Neptune in the 6th house. So the 6th house, it can also be a pet, It can be a pet, like literally. Maybe you've had a new beginning and your significant other bought you a new pet, and you don't know it just yet. And that's the surprise, and you're going to be very idealizing of this pet in the beginning, and then you find out that there are all these things that you need to do, but you accept it. But it can also mean something to do with working relations. Maybe you're having, maybe somebody, you or your partner, are trying to compromise each other, maybe even unaware that you're trying to compromise, or trying to kind of work on your relationship, and you've worked on your relationship, and then, what you didn't know, let's say, you or your partner got, resignated or fired from work, and you're like, a loss of a workplace, and you're like, relationship is doing good, is it? You just have to accept that. It's like, oh, our relationship is doing well. This is the best it had. Well, they just got fired. So they have all this time to work in this relationship and kind of compromise, or you do that. But it's more likely that your partner does that because it's something that you don't know that you don't know. It's to do with, something that you've idealized, something to do with work. Worst case scenario, it can be like a hidden affair at work that you work on your relationship extra so that your partner would not find out, or that you're secretly in love with someone, but this is so secret that you are that is a secret to you too, and you act like you're cheating when you're actually not cheating. This can also be the case, or you could be cheating, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be anything of that sort. It just means that there's something that you don't know, and you're over idealizing it, and you're over idealizing something to do. Yeah, it's funny because it's something to do with work that there's a certain, maybe you idealize work and you are not aware, or you think that this workplace is good for you, but you don't know that you're developing, like a mental condition or something, that this is like you would need to lose this job, or maybe you are fired and then you will eventually feel better after you are fired, because this is also the health. Sixth house is also the sign of our health. And with all the houses sitting for Taurus, this is also the sixth house for you. And yeah, Venus is also the sixth house for Aries, and Taurus is also the sixth house where the new moon is. So this can also be something regarding your health that can be either you're too optimistic about your health, or that you somebody lies about their health. This can also mean that. And that would be something that would require you. It can simply be an employee that says, well, I calling in sick, but on the other hand, it can be someone who's calling in sick, but then finding out they're actually sick. That's also the case. So we were in Libra, now it's Scorpio. Scorpio, this entire thingy happened in your 12th house, but Venus, the ruler, is in your 11th. And this is the beginning, the 12th house, it can be what we do know, because it's two luminaries, the moon and the sun. Although the sun is visible, the moon is not, but this is a new beginning in your 12th house. And that can be maybe you want to go on a certain retreat, but there's something that you're disillusioned by. It can be that you go on a certain retreat and you thought you're going to have a lot of time alone, but you find out that there's too much time with other people, because the 11th house, okay, maybe somebody lied to you that you're going to have a lot of time. You said, I need to go on a retreat. And then the person said, I'm doing this yoga retreat. And this said, no, I don't want community. I want a retreat to be alone. And don't worry, you're going to have all of your time for yourself. You're going to be alone. Each person is going to be alone. And they are dying to sell this place. And you bought it and it's sold out. And they're so happy. And then you go to the retreat and you find out that, 12 hours a day you have classes with people and they expect you to be with there. And you need to let them down, and you need to retreat to yourself, and maybe you don't feel comfortable, but maybe the whole thing with retreats, because it's the Libra house, that you tend to be people pleasing, and that's why you wanted to retreat alone, but they promised you and you're let down by that. So it can be something as simple as that, not that this is simple. And so your mental health is somehow compromised by something to do with either your colleagues or your goals and dreams. Or you thought that something, some new venture regarding your goals and dreams will be fruitful and will provide you better mental health. But you find out that no, it's not what you've expected. It's not going that way. And it can be Yeah, it can be that you retreat to yourself, or you retreat to some place and you find out that there are other people there, or that it's more social than you thought. Because with the ruler being in your 11th house, it means that things are more social than you expected them to be. And then um, you were going to a 12th house thing and you ended up in something like of an 11th, and that's disappointing. Or you're having an ideation there. Okay, you could maybe meet someone at the one of your colleagues, or meet someone at the conference, and you think, oh, there's this, big person, but you feel more alone with them than you feel when you retreat to yourself. And this is where you really want to pay attention, because it is a Neptune thingy. So if you're in one of your Venus perfections and you're expecting to meet someone, and you're meeting someone at the 11th house, and a conference or a community gathering, and you're idealizing them, or they idealize you, but then you may end up feeling more alone, more isolated with them, when you get to the truth of the matter. Because again, it's ruling, something, the luminaries are in your 12th house. So maybe you're trying to avoid something that you don't know, and you will need to face in this relationship. And then this one could really be destructive. So be very, very, very cautious with meeting new Venusian figures. Even if it is a man, if it is more in his feminine, and you're gonna know about this, if he's more in his feminine, then be very cautious. This is not the time to meet your man. It could be that it is ideal for you to meet a man that is more in his feminine, but and this is not the timing to do so. That's important, timing. Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, you're having the new moon in your 11th house with the ruler in your 10th house. So that can be maybe going to a conference where you meet somebody that can make you seem higher in status, or it can make you feel elevated at work, or you meet somebody at the workplace. But then you need to be cautious about your status. This Venusian figure, and again, it can be a woman, it can be a man that is more in his feminine, or a man with a gender expression of a woman. With Mercury there, we have a gender thing. It can very well be gender not conforming, or you can meet someone at the workplace that is, saying that or you could simply meet a person who is a trans woman or a trans man, and you will need to adjust your expectations accordingly, and kind of surrender certain expectations that you had. But this is a person that will affect your goals and dreams. So it can be something like you may lose the relationship, but it's more important that you pursue your goals and dreams, or that that you came for the goals and dreams, but the goals and dreams we did not fathom, but then you met this relationship that went out well. Again, with Jupiter opposition in the new month, something big is going out, and it might go out in a strange way. So things can go well in a strange way with this new moon. But you do be cautious, because it can be that if it is just a person who's saying, I'm a woman, and you find that they're a trans woman, so they're still a woman, it's nothing bad. So it can be just a person that you may experience difficulty with your associates or in your status, because people find out, and then you become, let's say, an LGBTQ activist. That can be an actually positive signification of this. But on the other hand, you can meet a person who is Venusian and is a bit of a trick, and this is happening in a very public place. So it can be that the relationship with this person kind of impedes your goals and dreams, but also compromises your status. So they could cause you like ramifications. So again, it can be a person that presents themselves as younger. And so you need to be careful, because if it is them lying, they say, no, I'm 21, and they're 16, then you need to be cautious. If you tend to be drawn to younger people, just make sure that they're actually legal and be extra cautious about that. I'm speaking to my audience as they are, I'm addressing my audience as elevated people, like not that if they have a problem or if they have something, then they treat it and they don't go and pursue it. But if you're just being attracted to younger people because this is also what's right for you into your natal chart, then just make sure that they are actually legal, because this could get you, it could compromise your status. Okay, it could compromise your status. People might say a few things that are not really true, or alternatively, you could meet a person that is actually not lying to you, and they're just, maybe perhaps a bit younger, and because you're dating them and they're younger, and there's actually nothing necessarily wrong, but people think, it seems to people, that 10th house, again, a public place, people think that you're just, abusing them, or that they abuse you if you're the Venusian figure, but it's most likely this Venusian figure entering your life. And they may think that, you're just abusive, you're just this, you're just that. But no, they're not underage, or then there's nothing wrong with this relationship, but it just seems wrong to the people. And also, 10th house, also 4th house. So it can be that your home environment might not be so acceptive of this person. But if this person is actually good for your goals and dreams and supports and nourishes, and the relationship itself is good, and it's only the way it seems to the public that it's not good, then it just might be something you will have to deal with. It would not necessarily impair your own relationship. Look to your own natal chart for that. But it can also be that you're being offered a new position, at work, or you're being a younger boss. It's either you're going to be a younger boss, or you're going to have a younger boss, or you're the boss, or you have a certain status. Something in your public eye is new, but it also includes something that either your home does not approve of, or it's more ideal than what it actually looks like, or maybe people idealize you, but you're not actually enjoying this position. Maybe, I think about Prince Charles, because Prince Charles is now a King Charles, and people might idealize his position because, the Queen landed him. She died. She landed him being the King of England. And people are like, oh, what it's like being the king. Is the king, oh my god, he's the king. And the internal experience can be, maybe his home never approved of himself, or his kingdom is like, oh, everybody wants to separate. Now that the queen is dead, everybody wants to to separate from being associated, from having their land owned by the kingdom. And this is such a a position, actually, the internal experiences of loss, rather than of winning. Although he's a bit, he's not such a young king, right? But still, I can think about this position. Somebody takes on a 10th house position, kingdom position, the king position, even if it's a woman, doesn't matter. The Queen of England, she was in that kingdom position, top of the queen of the kingdom. And people idealize them, but their experience, either they're lying, or their experience is just not. It's just they don't really enjoy that, although it yields them a certain position of power that they're used to. But this is power that's going to be overthrown. So that was Sagittarius. But the good thing about it, it can be that there's a new beginning in your goals and dreams. Your goals and dreams house. And if the lie around the Venusian thing is something like, being trans, or being, something to do with LGBTQ, because Mercury is also adaptable in terms of gender, and that can be something you can overcome, you can just accept gracefully, and you might change your mind, then that can actually be a positive thing. Other than that, it can be a sense of loss of status. And remember to not give up your goals and dreams, because you may start something new. It's not going to be that great, but it's still not a sign that you should give up your goals and dreams, or any new initiation that fails in this time. Capricorn. So with Capricorn, This is happening in your 10th house with the ruler in the ninth. So you may travel for work or travel in something related to your career, um, or travel, maybe with one of your parents if you're young and you're watching this. Um, and that might not, you may experience a bit of, you were expecting to travel, you were expecting, or maybe you start new, hopefully it's not starting a degree, but new studies or new higher studies or new project, and you're like, just not, well, you had big expectations. It's indeed a big beginning, okay? It's a big step that you make, but it's something is a bit off about this. Um, so if you absolutely have to travel, a successful journey could be a journey, for example, to Italy, just to watch museums. So you might have a bit of, or you may come to see for the first time, let's say the Louvre, and you see, the Da Vinci paintings, and you're like, oh, but it looks a bit with the Virgo, Venus in Virgo. You're like, oh, but those details are not so aligned, they're not so perfect, but it can actually be something good, because maybe you're a painter and you're traveling. Um, and you're seeing, this great art, you had this big expectation, then you see this artist in person, you travel there and you see this art in person, you're like, oh, actually it's something that I could paint. So you're disappointed by that, but then you're actually optimistic about your skill, or you're actually optimistic about something different. So it's a combination. It can be a disappointment that leads to actually increasing your confidence or increasing your faith. A disappointment that leads to increasing your faith. That can also um, happen. If you meet someone when you travel, then be very cautious about it. Again, unless it's a gender thing, and then there are more chances where if the person is mixed in their gender, then there are more chances that this is how the energy is going to be, and the sense of loss would be around your expectations, rather than that person being dishonest or you're being dishonest with that person. But it can also denote that, even if it is, even if the Mercury retrograde here plays the role of, having to hide your gender. Um, so, Aquarius. For Aquarius, this happens in your ninth house. Sorry, in your ninth house with a ruler in your eighth house. So this for you can mean, again, something higher learning or traveling somewhere, or something that comes from abroad, and it's a big thing, but that person can create losses to joint property. So maybe you needed to receive a scholarship from someone, but that someone is not, or that something with the scholarship, something with the condition. If you're starting to higher studies this semester and you're about to receive scholarship and you're relying on this scholarship, make a plan B. Make a plan B, because there can be a sense of loss there. Maybe they're not being truthful, or this project, maybe it's a new project and they got everything and they thought they have all the papers and they're not intending to mislead you, but it's not going to happen. Okay? And then you need to understand the context, because Mercury will go retrograde and then Pluto will go retrograde, and Mercury will go direct, Pluto goes direct, Saturn goes direct this month. So a lot of things that seem like they're in certain course of event are going to turn the direction. And if you are relying on any sort of finances that are not your own, being Aquarius, no. If you were supposed to, let's say, start a PhD or start, higher learning, and you're relying on this grant for your research, then your research might get stuck, or something might be that is going to force you to have a plan B around things. Alternatively, It can be that the person that you're working with from abroad, or maybe your professor, or maybe some teacher or guru, is maybe a Venusian figure is touching upon some trauma that you need to address. Or they say something, or they mislead you, or they say something that don't need me to mislead you, or that you say something to them, but that you mislead them, and this is because of certain trauma that you need to deal with, that you need to face. And they're just showing that. So there's a sense of loss, but it will lead to a sense of fate when you address that. Traveling might not, or traveling, if you're traveling on grant, then it might not be, what you expected. Okay, might not be what you expected, or you are scheduled to travel to go to a conference and you got the grant, and then you don't have the grant and you can't go to this conference or something. Although conferences can also be on Zoom, but then maybe you will have to attend on Zoom, Mercury, and it would be instead of being there physically, ninth house. And so this ninth house beginning is actually happening just on Zoom and not actually traveling. You're disappointed, but it can still be a good beginning. Pisces. So Pisces, this is happening in your 8th house with the ruler in your 7th house. And Venus there. So it's very likely that you can have another person or another partner, even a business partner, with whom you will address things of the 8th house. However, Neptune is in your 1st house. So your ability to state who you are or to align with your life path is under this overall time of fog. Okay, I have Pisces Ascendant. This Neptune is right on my Ascendant, and I'm supposed to join forces with a very famous astrologer, a very famous Israeli astrologer, who's supposed to come back from a vacation, and they actually have the Sun in Libra. And the Ascendant in Aries. So it's funny. But with if you have an Ascendant, Sun, and Moon Pisces, then you don't have the ability right now to project yourself in a way. You will have to surrender things and let them be with this. But there's a big beginning that is going to address both the way you run your finances. So for me, if I'm having a finances, if I'm having another, partnership, and I have to work internationally, then how am I going to, arrange my finances? It can be also for you. Maybe it is some business partnership where you need to address their joint finances. How are you going to, maybe you want to have a new website, okay, Mercury, with another person, and then, okay, how are you going to receive, you have, what's happening from when the other person pays to how, what account does the money enter to, and how does that goes around the accounts, who manages the wealth. Okay, maybe you will need an accountant, but it will be difficult to hire a good accountant, or it will be there's just something that here is, there may be a letdown, there may be a disappointment, but the good fate is it will cause you to address, there's a new beginning. You will have to address this 8th house thing, whether it's finances, whether it's certain traumas that you have with joining resources, with people, also energies, okay, certain energy boundaries. And so with Neptune in your 1st house, you find it difficult to know who you are exactly, to know what your life path is exactly, or to follow or to pursue your life path or who you are correctly this time. And that can cause a certain sense of being misleading, or also being misled, but not necessarily being misled on purpose. It's just that something might not eventually align. You might have to break this partnership, or you might have to, you might have to reassess how you handle wealth, later. And Neptune is also approaching your second house, so Neptune is approaching your money house. You will need to arrange your eighth house so that you will be able to surrender your second house. So for me, for example, I'm a Pisces Ascendant, and I had trauma that caused me to not be able to work, and I had to rely on welfare. And I tried to get out and get out and get out. And I said, I finished studied, I have a business, I have a profession. Okay, I want to rely on myself. And I was getting such a huge weight with that, with the universe. And I was like, but why? But let me work, but let me do this, let me do that. And then, if if my finances are not arranged in the way that whatever my income is, I can surrender and let go of, and I might make more this, more that. It can be a couple of years that that I don't have to depend my value on what I make for a living, because that would be the axis. Then if you're Pisces Ascended, it can be that you're trying to have a new venture, a new business, and you have a partner, and you this and you that, and then something happens, and you have to make sure that if you're not able to work, if something happens, if you're not able to take part in this partnership, if it is a relationship, maybe in the relationship, okay, maybe you think about you join forces. Maybe if you're thinking of marrying someone, this is a good time to make sure your life insurance is good, okay. It can also mean that with Neptune opposition Venus, it can also mean that you're marrying the wrong one. Huh? So you need to think about it before you enter into a partnership. What does it mean fiscally, financially? And it also means that you're going to need to arrange your eighth house in such a way that when Neptune enters your second house, that is the wealth that you own, if you are lost, you still have rights. If you are lost, you still have rights. Okay, if you started a business and that business tanked, you still have rights. If you, have a medical expense, which is also Neptune, unfortunately, that you need to deal with, you're able to do so, and your wealth might not be sufficient. You would have to, if this eighth house, you would have to have the eighth house dealt with, and unfortunately it is not, with Neptune in your first house being Pisces, it is not leading up to and I'm talking about decades, it is not leading up to being able to be self-reliant, and on a fiscal level. It is not leading into, in the near future, being able to, but it can actually lead to your being an entrepreneur, let's say on real estate. Because if you're spiritually surrendered, housing as something that is permanent, then this, it's not this new moon, but the move of Neptune from to your second house can actually make you a real estate person, because you have surrendered that wealth that you have, and so the spiritual lesson you can actually achieve the means of the second house by spiritual surrender. For me, this is very scary, because it is exactly what I said. I have the ruler of the fourth and the seventh in Aries, and later in Aries, but on the level of going back to this new moon, this new beginning, anything that opposes your Neptune right now, for me, is my ascendant. So I'm like the least reliable person on earth right now. Not because I want to be. Not the least reliable on earth, but it's like I don't see things so clearly. But if you have anywhere ascendant Pisces, then you are not, there's something in the way you project yourself that's not currently being able to be perceived in the way that you want it to be perceived, or there's something that you're not aware of in you, okay, in your life path, in your person to person, you, as you look in the mirror, you. So there's a new beginning regarding to your joint resources with a partner that you can't rely on this partnership, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are lying. It can also mean that you're just not a reliable partner right now. If you're starting in a relationship, okay, you're not a reliable partner right now. And that can mean that you may drain the resources of energy that they think, you know, they have this optimistic point of view if they're, you know, like the Libra, this optimistic point of view that we're going to be equal, we're going to be fair, we're going to be this, we're going to be that, but you are not currently built to be in a fair and equal partnership right this, you know, moment. This is in general, you know, for people who have ascendant Pisces, the whole thing. I know people have been single for years with this ascendant simply because, you know, we are not, if we are ascendant Pisces, we are not, and we have Neptune around, you know, our ascendant, we are not in a position to be a reliable partner right now. We have to surrender this issue of being the one for someone because we just have to deal with things. And that can meet you in your business, that can meet you in your you know, relationships, that can meet you in, you know, many places, any one-to-one relation. So this new beginning is about your 8th house, is about your resources, and it is a very optimistic one. So there is a lot you can take from that. Maybe you arrange your finances in a way, your joint finances, or maybe you arrange any grants or welfares that you give in a new way. Okay, for example, in my country, I live in Israel, Taurus, and there is, again, with Rahu in favor of women and Uranus revolution, there is a minister that is female that wants to increase the welfare that people who come to a new age and don't have their own retirement receive, so that they can live even if they didn't have, you know, big retirement, so they can live, and if they didn't acquire big wealth, they can still live. And this is of course in favor, you know, of women or single parents, so that they can know that even if their own wealth did not grow up. And for me, I was like, I rather vote for this person than for a person who promised that my welfare will increase, because I think about my parents and I think about the future. And now that I see, it's a very good decision on the long term, because if I have Neptune going into my own wealth, it might mean that I might not retire that wealthy. But if I made a good decision that I supported the government that supports the rules that give wealth, that redistribute wealth to people who did not manage to gain their wealth, and support the freedom of women, because if a woman does not want to marry, and she has to contend with all kinds of things in the workplace, then it's very difficult for her to acquire her own wealth. And if she knows that she's able to retire and she will have housing, she will have stability, even if she didn't, you know, if she's still on the struggle of you know, of making it better for herself as a woman and also for women, then this is a good, you know, a good choice, where unfortunately this is the type of people that might have to rely on the wealth redistribution, on fair wealth redistribution, because they're running a struggle that make it very difficult. They have to surrender having their own wealth. And to surrender having their own self-value based on how much they make, on what their possessions are, and whatnot. So again, if you are ascendant Pisces, especially if you are in the feminine, whether you, regardless of, you know, the way you define yourself in gender, if you're more in the feminine, and your Pisces ascendant, and now the Neptune is going to go to your 2nd house and it's going to spend some, you know, quite a while there. And it may be a good investment to invest in wealth redistribution for people who are retired and don't have, you know, wealth, not because they didn't make the right decision, but because they fought for the freedom and fought for the liberties, and fought for, you know, consent, and then they gave up, they surrendered, you know, partnership, 7th house, they surrendered a lot of grants that perhaps could have been given to them if they were, with their partners. They've surrendered the partner's life insurance. They've surrendered something, the wealth that comes from the partner. They've surrendered that, but then they fight for a better future. They fight and they represent us, and they represent us in politics. And then there is wealth redistribution for these people so that they can retire. May not be filthy rich, but they will have achieved something very, very important in their lives, and that is fighting and standing for the rights of humanity, also in the feminine. And that, all in all, makes for a better world. So there I go. I touch on things that are not only related to the new moon in Libra, but this is something that you need to think about the big picture. All ascendants need to think about the big picture with this moon, because this is a new beginning that is not going to go into fruition, or that will not bear the fruits that you want it to bear. Unfortunately, in Israel, we will be having elections in the end of October. So yeah, but this is an important, nevertheless, it is an important new moon. It is a big event. It is a big event that will lead to there is a certain disillusionment that will actually lead to a new sense of fate, or a renewed sense of fate, whether it is when Jupiter goes direct, but there is more awareness of the bigger picture. Me just recording this, I looked at the Neptune and I was like, oh, now I understand why am I being stopped, because I want to start a business, I want to fix this, I want to fix that. Not only did I not get to fix my, I got to study after the financial crisis, because I got to study, but I was working, I couldn't study, and then there was a financial crisis and I could not work, and I went be lunatic. I said I was lunatic, and then I got money to study, which was very, very traumatic. But then, after I finished my study, I said, okay, I got my study, I got my degree, I got my profession, and I've learned astrology along the way, so okay, now it's time to do a business. And I was getting this no from the universe, no, like not only did and in 2008 I had debt. So not only did I not get to fix the issue of the banking system after having debt, even though I was forgiven, the debt was forgiven eventually after I paid for years during my studies from welfare, not having enough food. But after that, it was like not only did I not get that issue fixed so that I can address people abroad. I can still address people abroad, but it's more difficult. I cannot hire someone from abroad because I don't have PayPal. I cannot order, all those fun astrology things that I see from abroad because I don't have PayPal. And I also left a person that I knew for 10 years because in COVID the relationship got struggled. So it's like, okay, I had to rely on my own finances, but not only did I not get to start my business internationally, I was also in a situation where I was in between homes, and then I had debts to deal with that I don't have to pay, but I needed to deal with because they were being created in a funny way that I have to tend to this bureaucracy. So it does, in the bureaucracy level, I would have to change the legal system in my country and in Netherlands. I don't know how it works in Netherlands, but at least in my country, so that the rules will be in favor of women who went out of violence or whatnot. So it's like, oh my gosh, I thought that I will, that enough is enough. I did this. I'm going to be holistic health practitioner, and I'm going to make my money, and that's that. Like, I'm going to make a change with my career, but eventually what I'm making the changes with my activism. And I'm like, I did not choose this. Or in the academia, I had a Me Too case, but that's another issue. So if you are ascendant Pisces, I'm sure that there's a lot of this, storyline that you can relate to, because your life path, you think I'm going to go this life path, and then something happened, you have to surrender your life path. I was eligible to get money from the government for not working, and I was like, no, I don't do this. I don't do this because I want to work. Even though I could, 4 months not work, and I said, no, I want to work, and and that's what means it would be conflict. So yeah, that is the new moon in Libra. um, I think I spoke about everything there is to say about that. So, new moon in Libra, full moon is going to be in Aries. With the full moon, things are going to be exposed. So, whatever it is that you don't know, whatever is missing, whatever you said and it was so, then it will be exposed. And people may be disappointed, or maybe you thought something was small, but it was more meaningful to people. This happens. It's just so. And you're just going to have to contend with that. Um, but it can bring a new sense of faith. It's just like, okay, this was the wrong thing to believe in. Now I got let down by that, and that probably is the thing to believe in. Or I overvalued other people but undervalued myself. Or I overvalued myself but I undervalued other people. And then there is a balance to that. It can be the self and the other. It can be, um, you know, being self-reliant versus relying on others. That is going to create, you might be disillusioned from something, but you're receiving new hope from something else. So whatever lets you down is not the end of the story. And you will discover the letdown. By the full moon, you will discover the letdown. If it is the 12th house, you might have to wait to the full moon. But you will discover the letdown. And eventually, whatever disappointment that you had, you will find new forces within you. Or you may have been overestimated, and maybe your lesson is to find actually find out that your surroundings is more supportive than you thought that they were. So with Libra and balance issues, it's always balanced. So it can go both ways. It can either be you finding new power within the self, or you finding that the people that you didn't believe could help you are actually quite beneficial. But if you're relying on others, then it's time to rely on yourself. And if you're relying only on yourself, then it's time to rely also on others as well. If you're relying on both you and the other to begin with, then it is time to either change. Maybe this partner is not good, but that partner is, or it means that this arrangement is not the right arrangement for you, but that arrangement is, and that can also be the case, and it will be replaced. It is replaced because it's a moon cycle. So the moon will replace what's not good. Venus will come out of this opposition with Neptune. Mercury will come out of this opposition with Neptune. And you can still enjoy creative time, painting, drawing, singing, joining forces, and kind of understand that sometimes things not going out your way is a part of life, and it doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you wanted to see this painting all your life and then you see it in person, you're like, oh, it doesn't actually, it looks like something I could paint. Then you're disillusioned by that artist's skills, but you have a new sense of faith that you're like, another way to look at it is like, wait, I can actually paint a painting that will end up being there. Okay, that is more like the energy of this new moon. So this supposed fall from grace is also a rise into grace, but try that for that not to go into themes of devaluation, because Venus Neptune can go into idealization and devaluation. And the best is to understand that not everybody is perfect. And that means that person you've idealized, oh my gosh, you are a lot more like them than you thought, rather than, oh, they're like me, they are like like the average person. And why be disillusioned from that? Like, it's disillusionment, but why be discouraged from that when you can actually find that a source of healing and inspiration? um, so this is what I have to say. um, I wonder if there's anything like particularly dark that I'm gaslighting you if I didn't say. No, I talked about scammings. I talked about people appearing as underage. If a person has, on a mundane level, I will say that if a person has tendency to younger women that are underage, and Neptune, has a dark side to him, then that can denote some Neptunian person trying to mislead people or younger age underage people being used to mislead people, perhaps not intentionally. So that can be the case, um, or it is an issue of the power of youth being misused. Not long ago, I saw an exposure of someone who had a lot of money. I don't know who it was at all. And he was dating younger women, some of them legal, some of them not. And the issue was that he was basically, they were attracted to him. So he was the kind of character where he had a lot of money and power and then a lot of, young women around him. But unfortunately, he mistreated them. And then he used their hormones or their youth by procedures that were not legal and also perhaps also not consensual. There was an aspect of human trafficking, of cult, of medical experiments. Using the medical experiments he did on him because he wanted to look younger and to maintain his longevity. I don't remember who it was. It was something that I saw on one of the Israeli news, but this person was not from Israel. He was someone who had a lot of money and did that. I don't know who he was. So he used something in the biological, either the eggs of these women or something in those women, the hormones, to inject to himself so that he will have longevity. So it was a medical experiment that he did. He was doing that for years, but he was exposed for doing that. So think about Neptune is also medicine. Okay, so the abuse of youth, the abuse of young children, or the abuse of youth, in order to gain power, Pluto, or to gain the power of longevity or the power of youth. This can also be abuse of children. So yes, those dark things happen. I know for Ukrainian women, the Netherlands government published a warning to Ukrainian women in English that I don't know if they can understand, but it published that to beware of scammers that will lead them to human trafficking because they escaped Ukraine and they can be victims. So in these times of wars, of course, a lot of children can be victims to human trafficking. So this new beginning can also be something that is actually quite dark for some people. People that their youth is being taken, or somebody tries to take their youth away, and that can be like the stories of medical things or all kinds of things that yes, it can happen. And the value of the new moon in Libra there, or around the full moon, would be to expose. Because there may be things that we are not aware of, and it can be like, you're watching this video thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't know all these things could happen. And this is something that is also at a part of what happens in wars, that's human trafficking. And people are like, is Ukraine, did they win the war? Did they this? Did they that? And then Russia is recruiting all its men to fight. And people are thinking Ukrainian, Russian, and then they go to Netherlands and they get caught in Netherlands and they get medical treatments in children to try to make somebody live longer, all the while they're, abusing them. So that's something that's not so well spoken about, and it is even women. And with Mercury, yeah, human trafficking is also about transportation. I saw this also in Israel. I've heard women who are survivors of human trafficking, that they have a page that I read constantly, and uh, they talked about taxi drivers that are abusing women, and because they are taxi drivers, they will go around at night and make sure that the women who work in the street, they would collect the money from them or something like that, and nobody would suspect them because they're a taxi driver. And when I was in Netherlands, the person that met me was a woman who worked for the Bink, which is a company that both have the people who check the tickets. And this is not against the Bink. I've had encountered people who checked my ticket. I got reports in Netherlands for driving black because I had to. And they were very kind to me. And this is in no way, shaming the company. It's just exposing how these things work. That you have a person, an insider from organized crime is organized in a way that's an insider that does work, with the police or with a company like the Bing or with a government organization, and then they find you, they know how you are in the street. Maybe they were recruited, and they might put women in the front so you don't suspect them, and they thought that I was an immigrant, and then I spent the whole shift with this person. So this person was absolutely working for the Bing. They were not pretending to be working for the Bing. I spent the whole shift with them, and then they wanted to take me to their house, and I just went the other direction because they started to expose things. And even though I did not sleep for I don't know how long, I saw that going there, there's no going back, and they threatened me that if I drive black, then they work with the police, and then they have big problems. And they said, oh, I like my job because everybody has to obey me. And then on Monday there's the lady that comes and brings the lingerie, and you can't go out of this house, and then blah 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 blah. Supposedly they're helping you, and supposedly you're supposed to be hidden because they're supposedly not supposed to know that you're there, and maybe you will do some black business of cutting just small drugs, and they don't tell you what it is. But for a person that has escaped a war, that can be very dangerous. I don't speak Russian. If you do speak Russian, please, you can use this information, and if you speak Ukrainian, you can use this information and translate that so that people can beware. Because whatever happens to them in the street, and many things can happen in the street, going to these places is the point of no return. Like the Amsterdamers are convinced that the Swedes, I actually wrote a skit about it, that the Swedes are buying apartments, that the rich Swedes are buying all the apartments in Amsterdam. And the red lights district is this kind of very ancient touristic place that Amsterdam is proud of, and they make prostitution legalized to help prostitutions and whatnot. But there is a lot of human trafficking going on, and a lot of the real estate is indeed occupied by human trafficking. And organized crime, like I told you, is organized in some way. And this is true to every country. This is not just Netherlands. I'm sure this happens in Israel. I'm sure this happens in the United States. Oh, wow. So this is not, shaming any country. It's just something that happens. And if people go there because they have a lot of social rights and they think they're going to get treated well, there is also a big, big danger of human trafficking. And again, this new moon in Libra with Venus being fallen and opposed by Neptune, it can be a young girl, young women, young ladies, and also young boys being subject to these kinds of atrocities. Again, Rahu is in favor of Venus. Uranus is in favor of Venus. There is a revolt in favor of women. But this is the big picture. The big picture is that things are heading the Venus way. Things are heading in favor of youth, both in terms of, women. And then it will go, the Rahu will go to the Aries Libra axis, and it will be intent of the rights of the individual. Okay, so on the big, the big picture, things are going good. But then for a particular personal experience, there can be people who are, because of the war or because of many things, subjected to these kinds of atrocities. And we need to raise awareness, and we need to be conscious that this is also something that is going on. And I don't want to gaslight anyone about this, because it's not only rules and regulations that need to be addressed, but also the enforcing of rules and regulations, and also the public opinion. Because if the public opinion thinks, oh, the rich Swedes are buying our houses, so we don't have houses, and oh, they let all these immigrants here, and they don't understand that a lot of what they think are the rich Swedes are actually human trafficking apartments, that nothing to do with necessarily the Swedes or anyone, and that it's not the immigrants that are the problem, but the human traffickers that are the problem, then they're aiming the fire at the wrong people. And immigrants are just people. If you give them rights and you grow them well, they become a part of your people. They become a part of the people you are proud of, that represent your country. Sweden probably knows to tell that on the long run, especially Swedish women, because women in Nordic countries have adjusted way better than men, because they came from cultures that were not respecting women's rights, and this whole thing is in favor of women. But hating, on immigrants is not going to solve your real estate problem. Addressing human trafficking is. So yes, that's a bit of a political rant. For the time being, Libra is such a political rant. Yes, absolutely. It's such a political sign. Very much so. So, on with diplomacy. That was me. I'm Talisha on Twitter, Shelly Youngblood on Instagram. I do readings. It's $50 for reading, and I also I can tell you according to your question and your personal chart what crystals are good for you to work with. It is in no way remedial or talismanic. That means that it's just adjoining me understanding about crystals and me understanding about astrology in a way that is not a talisman. I don't know how to do talismans. I know how to do talismans, but I don't do talismans. I don't prepare jewelry for you. You're not buying the crystal from me. And I just know what the crystal does, and I just know what you're dealing with, and that is how I do it. I don't do it because necessarily this is the crystal that fits this aspect. So it's not Vedic and it's not astrological magic. It's just something that people asked for, and I do. So it's $20, very simple reading. And if it's not fit for you to work with crystals, then I will also be honest and tell you, because I don't sell you the crystals, so I don't have any interest. If you don't buy from me, I didn't win or lose anything. I will just tell you, what I think can help, but not, if it's not a crystal, then I'll be honest about that. So have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. How do I go? I want to go to finish the... But I want to finish... No! What's going on? This. And now, YouTube. Maybe YouTube will help me. Now you will see. No, you will just see my YouTube page. Press that. I'll press that. This is me live. Okay, this is a beautiful screen. This is me live. But how do I stop this live? Oh, that's lovely. Oh, there it is. Paused.